Skyscraper goes up. District Detroit aims to reignite. But an old question persists. Can we build a downtown for everyone? Also, retired Judge Timothy Kenny now free to talk about what he saw and didn't see as he weighed claims of voter fraud in Michigan. Today is Sunday, January 15, 2023, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint. Oh, how I wish we were talking about a Lions playoff game this weekend. So strange last week the way we celebrated a final game in Green Bay that really didn't mean anything except keeping the Packers out of the playoffs. But then again, after the second half of the season the Lions put together, we head into what will feel like the longest Lions offseason in ages. So eager to get it started again. The teams that are in the playoffs right now, can you believe I'm saying this? They are pretty glad they don't have to face the Detroit Lions. But on we go. This past week, the Detroit Regional Chamber hosted a one-day Detroit policy conference. Among a long list of topics up for discussion was an old one that has new life and new relevance. Are we building a downtown that is as inclusive as it can be? District Detroit is trying to get back on track with the residential plans we were promised so long ago. And this week, the Downtown Development Authority got into a pretty heated debate over the lower income housing portions of those plans and how much billionaires should be subsidized for their projects. We're going to talk about this morning with the City of Detroit's Planning and Development Director, Antoine Bryant, who spoke at the policy conference this week. Also today, I'm delighted to have Judge Timothy Kenny coming in. He's the Wayne County Circuit Chief Judge who heard a lot of claims of voter fraud and malfeasance, claims that still linger like zombies despite being turned aside again and again. Judge Kenny is now newly retired and now free to talk about that and about the state of our local justice system. It's all this morning on Flashpoint. All right, there are two sins, it seems to me, surrounding talk of downtown Detroit. There's talking about it too much at the expense of other things, and there's not talking about it enough. This week, the Detroit Regional Chamber put it back on the front burner with the city's Planning and Development Director, talking about ways to make sure it grows in an inclusive and expansive way. And Antoine Bryant is my first guest on Flashpoint. Antoine, I wanted to have this conversation for a long time. The Chamber helped me tee it up, and so did you, so I'm grateful you're here.
Devin, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate the opportunity.
Give me a little bit of an understanding that 2 years of the pandemic has changed a lot of our math and the progress on things, and even our understanding of who's going to work in a workplace and who's going to work at home. But give me your overall take on the health of downtown Detroit right now.
So downtown Detroit is coming back. If anyone has been there, especially in the last several months, you'll see a lot more activity. People are coming down to eat, coming down to shop, coming down to really have an opportunity to celebrate with their families, with their loved ones, with their friends. So life is coming back, but it will be different than what we all remember, right? And that should come as a shock to no one. However, the workplace environment is going to adapt. And many of our entities that are down there, they really still want to be down there, right? Because downtowns are still the lifeblood of a city. And so we're seeing this as an opportunity for us to not only grow, but evolve. And we have the opportunity to do so and are on that way.
We have seen a number of projects that people were excited about that then got stalled. And obviously one of the most infamous now is District Detroit. 8.5 years ago, we were promised not a stadium, but a neighborhood.
Correct.
And mostly we ended up with a stadium and a lot of surface parking lots. Give me your take. How right are a lot of residents who are very upset and angry with the way that this has proceeded thus far?
I can certainly appreciate that. There were some things that were promised, but they were not delivered at the time. However, District Detroit has a path forward because of a voter-initiated community benefits ordinance. The development team has been meeting with residents on a weekly basis. We had a very successful third meeting just a couple nights ago that is now led by that Neighborhood Advisory Council, where they are engaging directly with Related and Olympia, and we're working toward getting those projects done. It'll be 10 projects over the course of the next several years, and we have a way forward for that to really become manifest.
It grinds on a lot of people to watch billionaires like the Illiches and Stephen Ross needing so much tax abatement or brownfield credits or whatever the help might be. How do you balance
because obviously this is competitive, and if one town or one city is willing to give somebody more, then all of a sudden you lose because you weren't willing to give that up. How do you balance that?
So, Devin, I appreciate and I'm really glad that you bring that up, because one of the things that our DEGC, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, did a conversation on Tuesday publicly that people can attend, really defining what tax abatements and tax incentives really are. And they did a very good job of dispelling the myth that they're just rolling a Brinks truck and giving out gold bullion out the back of a truck. These are contingent upon the completion of the projects, and then they get abatement after the fact. And so we want your listeners and our residents to understand this project has to get done before they can even receive the value of what a tax incentive really is. And so I really want to be clear about that distinction so that people understand we're not just giving people a blank check.
That meeting got a little testy, though.
And it should, and that's fine. And we engage with our developers to let them know that residents have questions, and those questions are valid, but the developers have been amenable, and they are available to address all the concerns that the residents have.
So we're looking right now at a number of different housing projects that are on the drawing board, and the mayor and the city council and people like you have made it clear that there needs to be a fair amount of low-income housing included right up against fair market housing.
Correct.
And by low income, anybody making 50% of the area's median income. How, in general, have you seen those kind of agreements work? Can you kind of push against market forces in a way that keeps everybody happy?
So there's a way forward in that. As according to the ordinance, when we have to provide affordable housing, we have our developers provide at least 20% of their units at 80% of AMI. What I'm excited about with the District of Detroit is they're providing those units at 50% of AMI, really addressing that affordability ratio. Additionally, the inclusion of Related as part of that conversation, they are the leading provider of affordable housing in this country. And so to have them part of this partnership when what they do is affordable housing is exciting, and they have a track record of not changing the affordability of those units. And that's something I can't emphasize enough. When they provide affordable housing, it remains affordable housing in perpetuity.
You can see the eagerness to change the math and the calculus on these things. Have you seen this work in a way that we're trying to follow in other parts of the country, or are we trailblazing here?
So we have an opportunity to really lead. In some neighborhoods and in some cities, the gentrification, if you will, is a real thing, right? But here in Detroit, I think we have an opportunity to mitigate it a bit, the inclusion and the promotion of that 50% AMI. And for those that are wondering, it'll be ranges of, a one-bedroom unit could now be in the neighborhood of $800 as opposed to $2,400 or $1,200, right? And so those are things that some of our legacy Detroiters can now afford at 50% of AMI, and we have that opportunity to have that adjacent to downtown, right? I mean, the District of Detroit is walking distance from downtown, and that's something that many of our Detroiters are asking. How can we have housing that, quote unquote, we can afford that's also near and close to downtown? Another
area close to downtown, walking distance to downtown, that is kind of a great laboratory for what you're talking about is what we're watching happen in Corktown.
100%.
I had some friends in town over the holidays who hadn't been here for a few years who barely recognized driving down Michigan Avenue. It's terribly important that Detroit remain this hub of the center of mobility. We're watching that happen at the train station, and yet, how do you keep rents in line where it keeps the character that you want it to have with the mom and pop stores that are along Michigan right now, the pubs and bars that have been there since the days of Tiger Stadium? How do you not price all of that out? How do you not become a victim of your own success is the question.
It's going to be a challenge. One of the exciting opportunities we have along Michigan and in Corktown in general is that it received a Choice Neighborhood Award from the federal government just less than a year and a half ago, which encourages and almost enforces us to do affordable housing in that area. So we have several affordable housing projects already ongoing and under construction right now that will address many of the residents that have historically been in Corktown, and again, at rates of 50, 60, and 80% of area median income. So we will have the inclusion not only of housing for those households, but new housing to be able to address many of our legacy Detroiters.
You're trying to thread a really tricky needle.
It is very, very tricky, but we, together with the administration and with council, we've been really, really pushing forward on it.
Antoine, I could talk to you about it for about 5 or 6 hours. I know we don't have that kind of time, but I'm so grateful you were here, and this is a conversation we'll continue.
I look forward to it, Devin. Thank you so much.
You bet. Antoine Bryant, the head of development and planning for the city of Detroit. We come back, we will talk with now retired Judge Timothy Kenny about what did and didn't happen in the 2020 elections. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
It was nice to be able to call and get quick response.
As it benefited to me and my family, I recommend to everyone. It's available 24/7.
They really do care about your well-being.
Welcome to DraftKings Casino, the home of blackjack. Get in on the thrill of the hit, the split, the double down. Enjoy the largest library of blackjack games in the industry at your fingertips. Spanish 21, live dealer, vacation blackjack, retro blackjack, and much more. Download the DraftKings Casino app, use the promo code, and get a 100% deposit match up to $2,000 in casino bonus funds. Action's so good, why play blackjack anywhere else?
GMC Terrain. Ready for any terrain. Premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC. Or GM employee program participants with a current eligible GMC lease can get this low mileage lease on this Terrain SLE for $249 per month.
I love that healthcare is at my fingertips at any time.
I don't have to take time off from school. I recommend to everyone.
As a student of WCCCD, this is a great benefit to have. It works on your schedule.
When you wake up, it's go time. You want to get up, get out, and get going with only the information that you need. We get it. So expect more out of your mornings with Local 4 News.
Your forewarned weather forecast to help you plan your day. More time-saver traffic reports to get you where you need to go. And more local news all morning long with the stories that matter to you.
We know you don't have time to waste, so expect more from your morning news.
Weekday mornings on Local 4 and streaming on Local 4 Plus.
Welcome back. 2 years later, I still receive a fair number of emails and social media comments from those who believe the 2020 election was somehow stolen. The roster of GOP candidates back in the midterms tilted strongly in that direction. So I've been looking forward to this next conversation for some time. Chief Circuit Judge Timothy Kenny heard his share of those cases and claims, and now that Judge Kenny is retired, he's a bit more free to talk about that and about his career on the bench, and Judge Timothy Kenny is with me on Flashpoint. Judge, first off, congratulations on your retirement.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today.
I'm really eager to talk to you about this because I followed all of those cases and your written opinions through all of them. Because you're going to hear this, you're going to still have people who want to ask you about this forever. And give me your take on, did you find anything that was at all pursuable about bad behavior regarding elections in Michigan in 2020?
I did not. I think the opportunity was provided to those who were bringing the challenge, and
which they are absolutely have a right to do, correct?
Absolutely, but it was opinion, it was speculation more than anything else, and there really was not a factual, evidentiary basis for the claims that were being made. And when the court is entertaining these challenges, and we should take and do take election challenges very seriously, there does need to be substance to them if the challenges are going to be upheld. And I think it's unfortunate that the rhetoric has gotten ramped up, I think, on both sides, and things have become very partisan. And I think that when we get to a point where there is a distrust about voting and the results of voting, that does not help us come together as a community and doesn't help us move forward in solving the many local and state problems we have.
I fear it has been deeply damaging. I think it is our most sacred right as Americans is our vote, and trusting that who we vote for is how it will be treated, that vote will be treated with respect and efficiency and legitimacy. I worry that this has been something, I said earlier, this is a zombie idea that we just cannot seem to kill. It just doesn't seem to go away. I have forwarded your opinion to a number of people who have emailed me who want to claim that there's still some kind of election fraud. And the answer that I get back from them is this was all just procedural. This was about standing, or it was about it. In other words, saying that these claims were only denied on a technicality. How would you answer that?
I would say they're incorrect. They were not. And I think that there was appropriate legal consideration given to the arguments that were made in 20, and also most recently this past November in 22, where in this past general election, there was an evidentiary hearing that went for about 8 hours, and there was no evidence to support it. But one of the things that has sort of struck me about where we are in terms of the lack of confidence in voting is I thought this past November about what has happened in the state of Florida, just from the standpoint of how they report elections. As I'm sure you remember,
much more quickly.
Back in 2000, was there anything more ridiculous and worthy of being on Saturday Night Live
than the hanging Chads?
Than the hanging Chad fiasco?
Yes.
And that droned on for weeks and certainly did nothing to enhance public confidence in the way elections are conducted. But it seems to me that it's probably pretty likely that the governmental officials in the legislature and the governor's office, wherever, got the message that this was an embarrassment to the state of Florida and that they wanted to improve public confidence. And to think that now, one of the biggest states in the country handles elections without much of the kind of drama that we see coming out of other states, including our own. Perhaps maybe the state of Michigan should take a look and see what can be done to improve that.
And perhaps the state of Arizona, given the length of time that you're talking about versus what happened in Florida. What do you think? As I mentioned, everybody should be able to bring a claim if they believe they have a legitimate one. But we ended up with a bunch of attorneys bringing these claims who then later their defense was, well, you couldn't possibly take me seriously or literally with what I said. What should await those attorneys? And these grievances are still hanging out there.
Well, that's up to the Court of Appeals, obviously.
Yes.
They are reviewing that. I think Judge Parker ruled very clearly and very forcefully that in these kinds of cases, when the very integrity of elections are being called into question and that they are frivolous claims devoid of merit, that the people who bring these frivolous claims and tie up resources and increase costs not only to the government, but just the delay in providing certainty to the citizens, there needs to be a consequence for that. And that it's not trying to chill the rights of attorneys or parties to come forward, but, have your powder dry when you come to court.
I've just got a little bit of time left, and I wanted to make sure I got to, as you leave the judicial world, give me your thumbnail on how healthy you think the American judiciary feels right now. Lots of controversies. We've had leaked decisions, and obviously all of this about the elections. Our judicial system's been under some kind of assault. How healthy do you think it is right now in America?
Well, I think on the inside, I have enormous confidence in the people who are serving on the judiciary. I think that there is an increased pressure, if you will, for judges to make sure that the process is fair and that people feel that they are heard and that they have their day in court. Because I would also say, as the former chief judge, the number of threats of violence against judges on our own Third Circuit Court has increased more over the last couple of years than I can ever remember in my 26 years on the bench.
You had to have a few of those yourself.
I had a few fan mails that weren't particularly comforting. Yeah.
But Judge, again, I'm so grateful for your time today, and thank you for your service on the bench all those years, and enjoy your retirement.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Very good to have you here. Judge Timothy Kenny, now the retired Chief Circuit Judge in Detroit. We come back, we'll kind of take a spin through Michigan politics and check in with what's going on in Lansing now that the legislature is back in session. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.
At Hungry Howie's, we have a flavor philosophy. It's that you deserve to mix and match the most delicious flavor twice at the same time. Philosophize on that. Get any 2 mix and match items, including the new no-dough bowl for $6.99 each.
Hungry
Howie's.
When winter weather hits, download the Forewarn Weather app, because what you get depends on where you live. Get alerts, Exact Track 4D radar, and the Futurecast. Download the Forewarn Weather app. Always watching, always tracking.
GMC Terrain. Ready for any terrain. Premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC. Or GM employee program participants where the current eligible GMC lease can get this low mileage lease on this Terrain SLE for $249 per month.
Hi, I'm Rachel Stewart, president of Gardner White. There are more reasons why Gardner White is your #1 furniture store. More designer brands, more bestsellers, and all the latest trends for every budget. In stock and ready with free same-day delivery. More styles with free custom orders. We have more for every room in your home with the lowest prices and the lowest payments, period. If you want style and want more, come see why Gardner White is Detroit's #1 furniture and mattress store.
All right, let's wrap things up this morning with a quick trip through state politics. The legislature in session now with its Democratic majority, while state Republicans try to get their convention together to do something about that. Good to have with me Lauren Gibbons, back with us, the Capitol reporter for Bridge Magazine, and Nolan Finley, editorial page editor of the Detroit News. Lauren, let me start with you. We are already seeing pretty quickly the Democratic agenda take shape. Outline what you see as the priorities right now and the things they want to move on fastest.
Absolutely, yeah. We started to see some bills get introduced yesterday. We're seeing right-to-work repeal on the agenda, expanding the earned income tax credit for low-wage earners and their families. We're seeing it talks about tax breaks for seniors and plenty more on the agenda. I mean, they are moving very quickly because this is the first time in a long time they've had the majority, and they're trying to get through their agenda items as quickly as possible here.
In fact, Nolan, we talk about it time and again about a party trying to read the mandate that they've been given. Often winners of both sides misread it, but when you've got the gavel in your hand, you also have to do what you can, right? Take the priorities that you've always espoused.
A mandate is what you can get done with your majority and not hurt yourself in the next election. So we'll see how this goes. It is some very divisive elements to it. The business community not going to be crazy about repealing the prevailing wage, but particularly about right to work. That's a competitive tool that the folks who are trying to attract jobs and development to this state say is crucial to remain competitive. The earned income tax credit is always a good idea. It gives people an incentive to work. It takes away disincentives not to join the workforce. The tax relief is very selective if she sticks to her original plan. I don't know how the vast majority of American or Michigan seniors don't draw a public pension are going to feel about tax repeal only on public employee pensions. That seemed when she first proposed it, we said that was unfair. Still, it's unfair.
Lauren, talk about how big you think this fight. Let me get back to right to work really quickly. How big is that of a fight is that going to be?
That's going to be a pretty big battle, as Nolan said. Certainly businesses are not necessarily looking forward to seeing right to work repealed, but unions have been against right to work for as long as right to work has been in place in Michigan. They've been pushing Democrats, especially for a long, long time, to get this law out of the way. So there's the first time this came up in the legislature about 10 years ago now. It was quite a battle. You should expect to see that again.
Yeah. Lauren, before I ask Nolan about his recent column on this matter, who would you say right now is the state's Republican leader? Can you point to somebody?
You know, I think maybe in a couple of months we'll start to see that coming, and we'll start to see who steps forward, not just for the GOP chair position, but who starts looking at running for the U.S. Senate seat, for example.
Sure.
There's a lot of people competing for that role right now.
No doubt. But Nolan, that I think frames the problem for the Republican Party right now. You wrote a piece this past week that said they may need to hold a bake sale just so they can afford a convention next month, because right now there really doesn't seem to be money for that.
That's symptomatic of the disarray of this broken party. They don't have a titular leader, not likely to get one for quite a while yet. It's a different place than they've ever been before in my memory. 40 years ago, when the party was sort of demoralized, financially busted, you had John Engler step up and reorganize and rally donors. There's nobody with that sort of cachet today, that sort of ability to pull the party together. It's in too many brackets. And so I'm not even sure they're going to be able to settle on a consensus Senate candidate. In fact, I would doubt it. And you think about the names being offered up so far, in contrast to the Democratic candidates, there's not much comparison. I mean, it's a weak field of potential candidates.
Lauren, Nolan, thanks so much for the time. Really good to have you guys with me this morning, and we'll talk to you again real soon on the program. I know that.
Thanks so much.
You bet. And that's going to do it for us this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Meet the Press coming up next. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time right back here for Flashpoint.